the stream?
Oh, I did. Hey, boys and girls, we are live. It is February 1st. I am 25,594 days old today. What the fuck?
That...
It's pretty old.
Hasn't gone live yet.
Oh, God, and I may not make it through the day. Danny just showed up.
I'll leave you alone. I mean, I'll just listen. I mean, to be fair, Speed, you're the one that invited me with the title on the email saying only you. Okay, so you did it to yourself.
That was yesterday. I did only you.
Yeah, that's when you got irritated, presumably.
Yeah, well. Yeah.
Okay, ladies, you're both beautiful. Let's go on.
No, I'm not. Wait, I didn't take it to be there. I didn't take there to be any disagreement there, right?
It was a joke, Danny. Moving on.
God, I used to like philosophy and philosophers until yesterday and Saturday.
Hey.
Well, I'm not saying it was Danny that did it. I'm not blaming Danny. Okay, just want you to...
Well, tell us your story. What happened?
Well, I blame Danny.
No, fuck it. I lied. It was you, Danny.
Yeah, well,
see, told you.
That's funny because I don't think there's anything that I feel like there's nothing that I've said that was false, right? If anything, it just seems I could understand the sort of pedantic feel right to it, but I don't think I'm saying anything false. I truly don't think I am. But
no, it's just that there was nothing that you were saying that was coherent, and that was the problem. I think what you ought to do is write up your bits with Erica's what Erica said about.
But I think Erica agreed with me ultimately. That's the weird thing here.
No,
right?
not really.
You didn't listen to the recording because I re-listened to it.
I don't think she.
Well, okay.
You hear. Nice.
Yeah, you heard what you wanted to hear.
She was being Erica nice with you, but
so she wasn't being genuine then.
No, she was being nice. She was being genuinely nice.
But the point is that when she said, "I see what you're saying," and maybe this is what I meant, or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
She was wrapping her mind around what you said and being gracious and giving you the benefit of the doubt. But here's what I want you to do, Danny. I want you to write a 1-page paper about what you think biology should do and what we got wrong on that particular issue. Just 1 page, and present your definitions of what you think we're doing and what you think.
Well, I think you should do a 3-page paper. No, 10.
I mean,
okay,
right.
One's good enough.
If that helps, excuse me. If that helps, all right. I mean, I can highlight the problem that I see in a way where it's all conditionalized. For instance, if you take a law to be this, if you understand X is Y, then here's what follows from that. Now, whether you're something like that, because I think that's how it should be understood. Because I've admitted that there's some missing puzzle piece in what I'm saying, right? And I said that to Erica, right? And I did say that I'm actually really weak with respect to philosophy of science, not very well versed in philosophy of science. So there is something missing here, right? And but I'm saying if you understand the terms in this way, then I see a problem, right?
Yeah, and my contention is what you're missing is the science part of it. You don't.
I don't know about that, but
you have no idea what we're doing.
And it's not about what you're doing so much as what you think.
And hence, you have a straw man version of what we're doing.
No,
I just looked at. Are you familiar with Campbell's biology?
Yeah, I have the book.
I just looked up law in there, and it's got 3 mentions of laws, and one of them is Mendel's. Mendel from.
We talked about that. We talked about that 2 days ago, right? We talked about the first law of Mendel. I said that could be a ceteris paribus law.
200 years ago.
There's a law of independent assortment. There's a law of segregation. But those are all, once again, those are Mendelian, and they're understood ceteris paribus, right? So I don't really see a problem that's ceteris paribus, not like a prima facie problem. And I said that yesterday that I can be convinced that there's a problem. I'm not so sure if there is one, right? But anyways, I think if I'll put it in written form for you, and that way you could see where exactly you can put your finger. I'm like, this is it. That right here is where I have a problem in your reasoning. And as far changing topics, you asked for a link about the soul. I don't think the introduction is going to be that interesting to you. I mean, I would go over some basic terms that we went over in the philosophy of math video, but I think the next video, the next chapter, there's going to be a lot to go over in terms of things that are really specific to philosophy of mind.
Okay, but what I really want to know is what book were you using? What
it's called The Soul by J.P. Moreland. It's linked in the
oh my God, Body and Soul?
No, just The Soul and How We Know It's Real and Why It Matters by J.P. Moreland. I have the link. Look at my channel. Look at the description of the video. The link is there.
Hold on a minute. I thought it was Body and Soul by J.P. Moreland.
I didn't even know he wrote a book called Body and Soul.
Hang on a second.
What the hell are we doing with our lives?
Where the fuck is J.P. Moreland? God damn it. I keep losing J.P. Moreland. I think I keep throwing him where he belongs, down on the floor.
I mean, I'm just doing it because I like the topic, but I think I would have a lot of points of contention with him for sure. But I'm not so much interested in being in disagreeing or anything. I'm just more interested in reading the book and what he's saying.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me yet? Even though I'm way over here?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Body and Soul by Moreland and Ray.
Oh, that's someone else. But J.P. Moreland and Ray, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard of that book.
That's the one that Hernandez. Do you know Eric Hernandez? He debated T. Jump with a few other people.
I can't stand Eric Hernandez.
Okay.
But
Eric Hernandez, basically, this is his Bible. This is his entire philosophy, Body and Soul. By
no,
J.P.
and he's talked with J.P. Moreland. No, I like. So when I say I can't stand listening to Eric, I've talked to him in person, and he's a nice guy. I think he's actually, I think he's clever, but I don't have a high bar for cleverness. But but I can't stand the sort of inferences that, like, if let's say dualism is true, whatever, let's just pretend. It doesn't follow, therefore God exists. It just doesn't follow. And he treats it that way, right? Like, oh, well, look, the soul exists, and the best explanation for the soul is God. And that, and what's even more infuriating is that all the atheists that he debates follow the rabbit hole of trying to dispute dualism. And that is, they're going to lose on that front, I think, right? But they could just say, okay, let's say there's souls. Let's say there's these two parts, these two kinds of ontological categories in terms of human beings, right? So what? Why are you saying therefore God, right? No one has said that to him. Someone needs to tell him that. Someone needs to tell him that.
The Soul and How We Know It Matters?
Yes, that book. It's very introductory, and it has a theological chapter, like where he cites the Bible. So that's going to be our third meeting. But the second chapter is just rich philosophy and technical terms. So, sorry, the first chapter.
Okay, yeah, I'm really interested in this actually. Fucking EPUB? Are you kidding me?
I have the PDF if you need it.
I do.
Okay, you do need it.
Well, let's see if I can get it myself.
Okay, I have it. I'm just gonna send it to you anyway, just in case.
Okay. I'll let you send it to me. I won't fuck with my. Okay. Anyway, so guys, Otangelo was on Praise's channel. You know that, okay, what happened is Erica saw that he blocked Andrew Cumming unfairly, and Andrew Cumming's comments were deleted. And if you know Andrew never says anything offensive to anybody. He won't even, I don't think he's never cursed or anything. And Otangelo blocked him, and then Erica called him out on my channel, and then I took his mod status away and timed him out. And then John, I think, actually blocked him on my channel, and I don't know how to unblock him. So anyway, he was on Praise's channel, and let's hopefully you can hear this. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong one. Okay, what is love? Here we go. Tell me if you can hear.
He was defying me some things, and I saw it wasn't making any sense to continue to chat with him.
Okay, let me
So
let me go to the beginning
which
here.
I would quickly like to tell you guys.
Yeah, I would love to hear it.
I was in the side chat, and I think Andrew Cummings was there too, and he was defying me some things, and I saw it wasn't making any sense to continue to chat with him. And I'm relatively new here, but not so new anymore either. About 6 months that I started to have more activity on YouTube, and you have given me a moderator status. So I thought that if I block someone as a moderator, then that person just doesn't appear anymore to me, but not to the comments doesn't appear, continue to appear to others. So I blocked him, and I thought that his messages would continue to be available to others, but I didn't know that when you block someone, then the messages of that person do not appear to anyone else too.
Oh, bullshit.
So I blocked him.
No,
and
it just disappears from you. It doesn't disappear from other people. Other people can
If you're a moderator, Dr. Wangwei, if you're a moderator and you block somebody, it blocks it for everybody. But if you were just like not a moderator, if you block somebody, it just blocks it for you. So
I didn't know that. I thought
that's true. That's true, Iger. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened? Erica Gutsik Ribbon, she was in the chat too and saw that. And yesterday night there was a stream at Speed of Sound of Gravity's channel, and I was in the side chat, and she went into the stream of Speed and denounced me. And I had moderator status at his channel too, and he immediately removed my moderator status. So I said, well, hey, let me in so I can explain what happened, because if I knew that his messages wouldn't be visible to anyone else either.
But I also timed him out immediately, so I didn't see that he wanted in. I should have been it while I wasn't watching, so I didn't know that.
I wouldn't have blocked him, and he didn't do that. And I said, well, that's not fair, because she went into the stream to denounce me, but I did not have the chance.
Anyway, so not fair, not fair. No, it's fair. You block Andrew Cumming, fuck you. What do you think? Fuck you? I don't know. Oh, and then there's this part. Do I still have people here? You guys are still here? Yeah, you're all muted. Good boys. Okay, listen some more. I mean, like, fuck crickets. What the hell? What am I paying you guys for? God.
Yeah, you're going to have to cut our pay if we're not going to snap too quick.
Yeah, okay. Okay, anyway, so then there's this part which I was amused by.
2 weeks ago, whenever I entered Speed's channel and started to type something, they put the Benny Hinn, the trumpet sound on there, you know, as like saying, "Oh, the clown is coming," and I said, "Okay." So if you guys cannot respect if someone enters your channel which has a different worldview, and you cannot respect that person, then this tells a lot about you, right, about who you are.
Anyway, the trumpet sound.
Yeah, from Benny Hinn.
But Benny Hinn, yeah, or him, or was it him or Hinn? I don't know. What must have been.
I don't know. We have to play it back and have it analyzed.
There we go. That was the Otangelo show for the day. That's all I got. Other than that, I got nothing. So hopefully, hey, Nathan, molecular, what's up? So do you think there are any laws in biology, like laws? Like,
I don't know.
like F equal, go ahead.
If you had asked me before this discussion, I would have probably said yes, in the sense that other scientific disciplines have laws. Just in the strict definition of the term, where a scientific law is a description of an observed phenomenon.
Yeah.
It doesn't explain why it exists, what causes it. It's not a causal explanation.
Yep.
And a literature search reveals there are people publishing editorials and, discussing potential laws for biology. It could be that the nature of the discipline of biology hasn't been historically, if you think of what biology was circa Charles Darwin's era, it may have been harder to kind of point to a law, but modern biochemistry, molecular biology, maybe.
Sorry, I was in the bathroom. I only heard the tail end of what you were saying. What was the gist of what you were saying?
Okay, good. No, I was actually asking in chat. I was shooting some questions your way. Are you saying that there are no? So are you saying some scientific disciplines have scientific laws? Biology is not one of them?
I don't know if any of them do, really, when you think about it. I mean, F equals MA is a description of the way we measure something, but I don't know if I would call it a law, or I just don't know if we can use the word law in the way that philosophers like to use it. It doesn't make any sense to me, because we have no guarantee that those laws don't fuzz out, or that we even have them right. I mean, there's nothing law-like about them.
Well, look, there's an epistemic issue, but that's not the issue I'm raising, right? There is a huge question about how we come to know.
Well, no, it's worse than that. I don't think there are any laws. I don't think that there's any, like.
You deny the uniformity of nature?
The uniformity of nature is definitely true locally. Okay, and we can count on it, but to what extent we can count on it, like we found out with Einstein, that we couldn't count on the Newtonian version, and there was some fuzziness, and now we have this dark matter problem, and we've got all kinds of other.
I thought you were saying you're not sure whether they're laws of nature.
Yeah, there is the way things behave in this locality, and we can mathematically describe them, and we can make really, really fine predictions on them.
Is the way that things behave in a particular locality regular?
In this locality, yes, they are.
Well, then it can be described by laws.
Well, you can if you want, and yes, you can describe them by laws, and you can measure things by laws, but I don't think there are laws in the sense that philosophers would like to talk about.
What are you talking? Look, the philosophers don't have a set understanding. There's a lot of disagreement about what these things are. There are people that don't think they're laws. There are people that think there are laws. There are different construals of laws. There's no one way philosophers use the word law. When the whole thing that philosophers are trying to do is understand what it would, how the term applies, right? What the term means, how scientists are using the term, right? So it's not like we've got to get out of the sort of box that, like, this is what philosophers are doing here, and outside of the box is what everyone else is doing. No. Like, philosophy is trying. There's this notion called tracking, right? Are trying to track. Okay, when we say something like the law of gravity, or Newton's laws, or Mendel's laws, what is meant by that? You know, and there's a lot of disagreement, right? And so it's not.
Okay, to be fair, there is in biology too, and every other field, disagreement about what it means. So we're on the same footing, basically. So what's the problem?
I'm not saying. But
there's also agreement. Like there are observations that we build on and accept without necessarily testing them directly ourselves.
Okay,
like the law put in chat that all organisms are membrane bound.
Yeah. So Orge wants to weigh in on this from a geology perspective, right?
Yeah. Am I muted? No, I'm not good. Yeah, I've done some research, as you guys know, and I've had scientific philosophy conversations with, professors and stuff like that. And I've kind of been tracking the conversation, but you want to give me the 2-minute synopsis of this real quick, please, so I make sure I'm full up.
We'll let Danny do that.
Yeah, well, very, very briefly, I'll start where we left off. There's a lot of disagreement about what it means to say that there's a natural law. Okay. Now, one rendition of a natural law is that it describes a regular nature that's it's exceptionalist, unless there's a term in philosophy of science called law-like, which is to show some kind of statistical trend, but the statistic is pretty set, right? There's it doesn't vary, right? So a law-like, something that's law-like is going to be 80% of the time this happens, right? But if it's 79% in one case, and 81% in another case, it's no longer law-like, right? So those kind of there might be some statistical models, like when we look at alpha decay or beta decay or radiation, that's where that applies to. But the point is that any law-like truth or law, they're taken to be, one understanding is that they're taken to be exceptionless. Now, this is not the only take, okay? But this is not a silly rendition of what a law is, right? The idea is that if X holds, we should expect to see something. If that observation is not met, we discard the law, unless there could be practical use to the law, right? Which is just to say that we understand the law to be false in a technical sense, but it's still very useful to follow this sort of model, right? And I'm not
is the conversation then sort of there's the utilitarian approach to something, and there's the 100% accurate way to define it, and that difference is what we're talking about here?
So I haven't really gotten to it. I'll try to not waste everyone's time. I'm just going to get straight to the point. If laws are taken to be exceptionless, there are no laws of biology. That's kind of the idea. Okay.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I guess my take on that is I think you guys is what you were talking about already. Maybe I could add something from my personal views, but there seems to be defining law in such a strict manner that you can't allow for it to adjust and change. Is that a decent way of putting it?
But there, I think what you're kind of approaching is the epistemic issue. I don't want to look. There might be a big problem in getting at the laws, and to a point where we're going to have to just use our quote unquote best models, best theories, right? Yeah. Obviously, you're right, but that's not what I'm disputing. I'm saying, in principle, right? Could there be a law of physics? Well, it seems like the answer is yes. In principle, could there be a law of video games? Well, it seems like no, right?
Well, isn't biology just essentially an applied physics and applied chemistry?
Well, it depends on how you construe it. I think that biology is such a vast domain. You have molecular biology, and it seems like there's a more fundamental nature of what's going on, to where
Danny, and won't that more fundamental nature just be physics and chemistry, which you just said do have definable laws?
Yeah, but then there's other parts of biology, like ecology, evolutionary biology. Well, now that doesn't seem like it's going to be reducible to physics, right? But I'm not so sure, right? There was the discussion. This was the discussion, right?
What was that last thing you said?
Evolutionary biology and ecology have a different set of issues than something like molecular biology.
No, they're the same thing. They're the same
thing. Danny, so tell me where this sentence is wrong. You don't think you can have a law to dictate thought and behavior, and you consider that stuff to be biology?
That's one thing, but think about this question. Are there laws of giraffes? It's not just behavior, right? We're talking about, or even intentions. It's is there a law that giraffes have yellow fur? No. Well, if we saw a purple giraffe, we'd still call it a giraffe, and it wouldn't disprove anything, right? Nothing would be falsified.
Well,
Right.
but that seems
Yeah,
like
but
a
there's no
pointless
law like
sentence
that.
there. That seems like a very pointless sentence. That's like saying, well, I don't know if gravity is always going to go down. Well, I do know gravity is always going to go down. Just because I can't prove it necessarily doesn't mean that.
I think these are just
we know there aren't going to be purple giraffes.
These are no, we don't. There could be a mutation, and we can get purple giraffe, and that wouldn't be. That's not physically impossible. Whereas in physics, I think what makes physics slightly more unique is that if there is some, I'm not a physicist, so bear with me, right? The idea is that if there's some observation that disconfirms gravity, then suddenly, there's a paradigm shift, right? Physics changes in some kind of dramatic way,
Sure.
perhaps, right? But if we saw a purple giraffe, nothing would change, right? Mutation, end of story, right? Like, or whatever, right?
Well, that's an oversimplification, though, isn't it? I mean,
I'm all ears.
If suddenly something happened that was such a huge mutation shift, like that gigantic that we've never seen before, that would be something worth noting.
I don't think that's what
just say, oh, whatever.
No, wait. Well, can we use the classic? A giraffe was not a good example. Let's use the classical example of swans, right? The idea is that they're
swans. Talk about real biology. Don't talk about hypotheticals.
Well, you're talking like the black swan, white swan argument?
Right. The idea is that no one here. Listen, the point of let me explain to Speed why I'm using this analogy, because everyone agrees in the room that there's no law of swans, right? In terms of their color, no one.
About the law of swans.
Because God, Speed, listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying that
I think I know he's going to this, Speed.
Yeah,
I think I know he's going.
Yeah, we all agree that there's no law of swans. Why? Because it's not going to be a problem for biological mechanisms, right? If there ends up being a black swan or a purple swan or whatever, or a gray swan, right? It's not going to be a problem for biology, right? And in the same way that if you take some other kind of let's say these like Mendel's laws, right? Law of segregation and independent assortment, right? Well, we could say, look, those sorts of regularities only apply in this strict domain or these conditions. Sure, right? And the fact that we see the law of independent assortment and law of segregation not apply in other cases is not a problem, right? Not a problem, because we contextualize and biology, especially with respect to genetics, right? And in a way where, look, it's very practical, to like understand the law of independent assortment, and then we can make predictions off that, and it's helpful, right? And all these things, but it's not like some kind of like, the idea is if we were to see an anomaly, it's just not going to be a problem for biology. That's the view that I'm trying to push.
What Speed just showed up there that Dr. Dan said, I think is what I'm getting my confusion, because it seems like you're trying to, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, of course, but it almost seems like you're trying to force a problem with terminology.
Yeah.
Well, let me. Okay. Well, I haven't really gotten to this, but here's what is the value of this conversation? Well, look, if science is getting at the regularity of nature, then if that's how you understand science, right, then biology, at least parts of it, like evolutionary biology and ecology, is just not science.
Oh, bullshit.
You're saying it's not science because...
No, I conditionalized it. Please, you see, Speed doesn't really listen. I said if, right?
I don't. I was busy.
I said if biology, if science is the kind of discipline that gets at the regularity of nature, and if there's a discipline in which doesn't have any regularity to it, it's just not in the purview of that domain, right? Now, maybe there's different understandings of science, right? Where maybe we can understand science not merely in terms of laws, and then I'm all ears to that, right? But that's the conversation. That is the implication of the value of the conversation, is that what distinguishes something like studying video game psychology and ecology, right? Or evolutionary biology, right? You can really do a lot of good work in terms of, psychological, sociology, anthropology. People study how a video game is to be played. People study how basketball games are to be played, right? But we don't call that science, right? Why, right? Why do we call ecology science, right? And I am not so quick to say ecology is not science. I'm saying there's a little bit of a problem here. If you understand, remember, so for the people that are about to get triggered, I'm going to conditionalize it again for you, right? If science is something that understands regularity, and if ecology presents no regularities in the strict sense, okay, then ecology is just not science. But you can understand science differently, and then that's where the conversation goes.
So, Danny, you have the internet YouTube debate problem where your sentence is like 4 minutes long. So if I want to try to answer you, I need to like cut you off in half.
I don't mind you cutting. I don't mind cutting. You can try to interject, and because if I go on and I'm not being understood, I want to be interrupted.
Okay. Because usually like people yell about that.
No. To me, it's contextual. You can interrupt if I'm explaining something and I've lost my audience. I need to be stopped.
Okay. So because I had a thought like 3 minutes ago, and I don't quite know if I remember what my thought was because you ran past it. But so could you speed? If other people want to talk, by the way, please jump in here. I don't want to bogart.
I have to go in 30 minutes, just so you know.
Okay, Speed, could you throw back Dr. Dan's last statement, please? The one about the second part of the conversation.
Okay, well let's see. Okay, which one was it? How far? So what's the value?
He just said. Oh, so what's the value? What's the second part of the question? That part.
No, I already said that. Look, psychology and sociology. These are not sciences under the definition that I just gave, but you can they're very useful in the way that the studies, the investigations are conducted, right, are very useful to human knowledge. So I'm not saying, look, there's a distinction between, they're different kinds of knowledge, right? I'm saying that we want to distinguish scientific knowledge and empirical knowledge. Those are not the same thing, right? And there's a question about whether something like ecology.
So if I can jump in then. Psychology, for example, when I think of psychology, I'm thinking you go to your doctor because you have an issue and you work through it, sort of like counseling and other stuff, right? Are you saying it's not a science because there isn't a set answer per person?
There are no laws of psychology.
Well, but there are, I mean, laws and like I think you could describe the way that the general ways you help people as sort of laws. It's like, I'm no psychologist, but I think it's safe to say that there are broad strokes to help answer questions.
Yeah, I'm not.
And then the individual people have nuances.
Yeah, I don't want to dispute that. I'm a teacher. They're learning strategies. There's a general.
Yeah, I'm an educator as well, right?
Yeah,
every student has a different approach to answer the question.
But when I conduct a study about how my kids learn, I don't think I'm doing science in the sense that I described, right? Maybe there's a different way. Like I said, if someone has an alternate definition of science, that I'm all ears. But
I do think your definition of science falls in with your study of how your kids are learning, because your definition was applicable to the way the world works, right?
No, that science gets at the regularity of nature.
Regularity, that's what it was. Sorry. And there is regularity in education, right? There is regularity in how students learn, at least in a broad context. Every individual student is different. Every individual student has their own blueprint and fingerprint.
We're talking past each other.
But there are
my regularity.
Well, can I finish my sentence, please? I'll take that silence as a yes, right? You've probably seen those diagrams of the different modes of learning. There's linguistic, there's autistic, there's hands-on, there's book reading, right? Those statements are still true. Every student I've interacted with can broadly be categorized in one of those ways. So how is that example you brought up not an example that fits within your demonstration of science?
Look, when I interrupt you, it's because we're talking past each other or you're not understanding me. I mean, by regular, I'm talking about in terms of exceptionalist laws, right? Not some kind of like, generally speaking, this happens. That's not what I mean by the regular. Okay. So, yeah, obviously if I just yell at my students that might lower their learning outcomes, right? Now, and there's could be strong evidence to support that, right? I'm just saying that's just merely an empirical domain, not in a scientific domain, given the way that I construed science.
Yeah, but the way that you construed science is not what science is at all.
Well, we're just talking about each other then.
Well, science isn't about getting at the regularities in nature. That's literally not science.
Well, but that is a part of it, though. I mean,
well, that's something that science has.
That is very much an application of science. That's one of the hands of science.
I wouldn't say it's an application of science. More, it's something that science has been capable of establishing. Is that there seems to be, to some degree, regularities, not a regularity, but regularities in nature. But science doesn't need that. Science is nothing more than a methodology for empirically understanding the mechanistic operations of physical systems in reality. That's it.
Well, look, people need to really pay attention to my wording. And I've said it very specifically that if I conditionalize it, look, if science is understood this way, then all of these other domains or disciplines are not science. That should be agreeable, but it might be the case that you reject the antecedent, that no, we shouldn't construe science in that way. But yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying. And it's not that we shouldn't construe science that way. It's that that's just not what science is at all.
Well, that depends on what you mean by science, right?
Danny.
But there is a definition of science.
Leo, let me talk, please.
I'm not disputing that either. There are lots of definitions of science.
Okay.
But there's only one useful one that scientists use.
I don't think any are going to be particular.
Do I need to put my hand up? What? What do I do to... Can I talk now?
Yep.
Okay. I think it is beneficial for the conversation to not tell Danny, you're wrong, shut up. I think it's beneficial for the conversation.
I don't think I did that.
I think it's beneficial for the conversation to look at Danny's approach and say, okay, does this work or does this not work? That's what I'm trying to do here. Telling Danny, this isn't science. That's the end of the conversation. I don't see the value in that either. That's a separate conversation from what I think Danny's trying to do.
That's exactly it. I don't know. It's very difficult to get at what science means. There's a lot of equivocation. People have different ideas about what it
really
means.
Not, though. If there was, then we wouldn't have established fields of science because nobody could agree whether it's a science.
The whole idea of philosophy of science is to answer these questions. There are people that study
the philosophy
what is
of science has been twiddling their thumbs on the what is science for thousands of years. The scientists don't give a shit.
What do you think?
We know what science is, and we use it all the time.
Every science twiddles its thumb for hundreds of years. Just the ideas of James Hutton have been around since the early 1800s, but people are still studying sedimentology. I mean, that's not a statement at all.
May I try to help?
I'm done. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I've been watching this on the side because I've been busy in the chat for my upcoming debate.
By the way. The gut stick Gibbon things and now another one's in front.
Oh, okay. I was wondering why.
I know Leo's voice. I don't know.
It's Doc. It's Doc. I'm doing this on my phone and I can barely see it all. So a lot of times I have trouble telling who anybody is because it's barely visible. But yeah. So, but I just go along with what they're saying and work from there. You know. Any rate, one thing I think I should point out, and Danny can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but as I said, I've been busy in the live chat for my upcoming debate. It's been crazy in there, and so I got here a little late, but I have been listening, and it seems to me, and I don't notice this before, but I didn't say anything about it. It seems to me that what Danny is actually trying to do, he's like walking the line between two different worlds. A lot of us in here are in one world, and then he steps out of that into another world, and he's seeing two sides of things, and he's trying to bring them together and to help people who understand science less than he does to understand it more and to defend science in doing so. And yeah, he's making a few mistakes, but overall, he's doing way better than they are. And if we can help him out with that, I think he'd probably appreciate it, and that's probably what he's looking for. Am I right, Danny?
Generally, yeah. I mean, I like to be understood before people disagree with me.
There you go. So yeah, I mean, if you know, if we keep that goal in mind, that, you know, he is trying to defend science, he's got some stuff to learn. We all do, you know, and if we can help him learn the things that he's got to learn, great. But yeah, he might be communicating things in a way that you're not used to. I would suggest hear him out the best you can, and what you think, what you think maybe is too much like something that you would normally see as an attack. Ask him what he means by it, and maybe maybe he can clarify that a little bit, because it very well might not be.
I don't have any issue with that, with what was just said. So
are we still on the soul and all that? What are we talking about?
No, we're beyond the soul.
Well, beyond the soul.
We have no
I could say a little bit.
So why are you still showing the book?
If I could say a little bit about biology and chemistry and stuff, as
everything towards. By the way, Speed, would you mind sending me this book?
We'll talk.
Okay. No, I don't mean physically send me the book and spend money. I'm talking about emailing it.
Yeah, I know. I think I'm out of coupons for Google email.
If I could put something into the context of set theory, and I don't know how familiar anyone here is with set theory, but I'll try to keep it simple.
I've heard of it.
Okay, well, Danny was talking about how he thinks that in some of the sciences of more complex things, like for example biology, that to paraphrase, basically, that things might not be as clear cut as they are in physics, for example, which is much more precise, and that is true in a sense, but underneath it's really not, because biology is actually a subset of physics. It's actually the study of physical biology. So all of the rules of physics actually do apply 100% to biology. What biology does is it tries to find patterns in the larger aspects of physics that physics itself as a core science.
I mean, don't you mean chemistry? Don't you mean chemistry? Because biology itself is all chemistry.
Chemistry is itself a subset of physics.
Yes, chemistry is a subset of
math.
physics. Biochemistry is a subset of chemistry, and biology is a subset of biochemistry. So that's what I meant by set theory. That if you recognize what is a subset of what, then you can figure out what does and doesn't apply within them, because all of chemistry does apply to biochemistry, and all of biochemistry does apply to biology, and all of physics does apply to all of that.
That's true. That also includes quantum mechanics. But go ahead.
Yeah, so quantum mechanics applies to biology. We don't usually think of it as applying to biology because, when you think of, for example, the evolution of mammals into different species of mammal, we usually people in general usually think of that in terms of the morphology and stuff like that. But when you get down to the genetics,
they don't see the
getting
bigger
a little
picture.
closer.
They don't see the bigger picture. They see parts of the picture, and some people don't want to. Go ahead.
Yeah, and when you get down beyond the genetics to the complexity of the DNA molecule, and the fact that it does store more than just base pairs, that there's other stuff that attaches itself to it and becomes part of that molecule, then you definitely get into quantum mechanics there.
So
you can even get quantum mechanics and at a sort of a more macro level. I mean, the way that most birds navigate is through quantum mechanical processes.
Yeah, and that's why I said it all applies all the way up into the from the superset into the subsets.
Yes.
Okay, that's what you meant by sets. Okay.
Yeah. So I hope that helps. I know it's a generalization, but I hope it helps.
I think that was kind of what I was trying to get at a bit. When Danny was talking about there's no law of swans, right? But they're all what Danny would describe as laws that underlie the processes of mutation and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera,
Yeah.
right?
And I could make laws of video games, by the way.
Sure.
Just saying.
And I think the conversation to be had, I'm not going to say we're going to tell Danny the correct way. I think the conversation to be had would be, can you establish a connection between that higher order and that lower order, right? Is that something that's plausible and accurate to say? I think that's a good conversation to have.
Yeah, we've had this conversation about reduction, but I have to think about reduction before I say any more about it.
Well, like I said, Danny, if you think of it in terms of sets, if you can recognize, what branch of science is a subset of what other branch of science, in most cases that I can think of, at least, one branch of science is very clearly a subset of one or more other branches of science. And there are some cases where there's a sort of Venn diagram overlap and one isn't a proper subset of another. But generally speaking, science tends to break up into subsets.
I'll tell you my concern with reduction, and I have to think about this. So please, hyenas, please calm down. Okay,
Never.
I have to think about it. Okay,
Hold on a second. I found a theme song for Danny.
Thinking is good.
Yeah. Are you gonna play the theme song or something? No, it's just that I'm scared that reduction implies elimination. That's. I didn't hear it. What was I talking about?
You didn't? Okay, it's best that you didn't, Danny. I hope other people caught on to it.
No, I didn't. We didn't hear anything.
Oh, really?
I heard it.
I didn't. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you mean by reduction what I think you mean by reduction, it is a useful tool, but it is recognized in science as having its shortcomings.
My problem with it is that it's highly eliminative, right? If you reduce X to Y, you can eliminate X, right? But I don't think we want to do that to biology, right?
Well, we have to sometimes because biology is so complex, and it is often the only way that we can actually get at answers to certain things. But then we can take what we found in that, and we can then apply it to the non-reduced. To a non-reduced example, and see whether or not it still holds true. And
what I'm
speaking,
trying to say,
it usually does.
What I'm trying to say is that I think that biology produces novel, their novel knowledge, right? Produces unique knowledge that physics and chemistry couldn't produce, right?
They could if it was done. Wait. They could if it was done in enough detail, but the problem is it would be an extremely complex calculation, and this is what they call emergent complexity. When you start with something that's so simple to calculate, and then out of it comes something that is extremely difficult to calculate, and then in order to understand that really difficult thing, often we do have to resort to reduction.
Yes, reduction is a useful tool.
I would say more that reality is emergent, not reductive. I don't think that those are opposites of each other.
No, I didn't see reality as reductive. We sometimes have to resort to reduction to understand it.
No, I don't.
Peter Simons, Mumford.
I've heard of Nicholson. Let's see.
Simons,
Walford, and then that's it. I don't know a lot of people.
Okay, it's a pretty good book. It's available for free on academia.
What's it called?
Just search, it's called just search for Daniel J. Nicholson, and you'll find all his publications. And this one, I can't remember when he wrote it. It says it's basically a bunch of papers on.
Yeah, this seems like a good resource. I do
2018.
Yeah, I think there's a lot for me to explore. I think there's a lot for everyone to explore in terms of what I'm saying. I think that I read a little bit last night, and there are like these various ways that people try to understand laws and science, but every single one of them seems deeply problematic to me. Like, that deny that they're laws, but I think that that's to me like that's a problem. And I don't want to go that way, And then there's people that understand laws in terms of like resilience, or and I think that that's very practical. I don't
This
know.
is why philosophy exists.
I don't know. I think everyone.
This is why people hate philosophy.
Why they hate it?
Too,
That's a
yeah.
better way to put it.
Yeah, I don't think Athena, you pointed anything that I've said that's false. You just kind of mean in your corner.
So I mean, get over it.
No, meme, MEME. You just like throw out
meme.
You're a memer.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
He's saying you're a meme lord.
Okay, cool. I'll take it. I'm a Nazi.
You don't really contribute it.
Meme lord.
Exactly. I'm a Nazi and a meme lord. Cool.
Here's Nestle has been trying to point out this book to us, and which I have behind me, and there's some stuff on ceilings and floors and phase transitions, and he thought it applied to what we were talking. The problem I have, Danny, is that when you start talking about laws of biology, I mean philosophy of biology, you don't even want to have that conversation. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all.
I don't even know what you're saying now, Speed. This is not a reply to anything I'm saying.
Okay.
I mean, you can claim
that,
but he's literally replying to you, Danny.
I'm literally replying to you. I'm saying you're starting at the wrong level entirely. If you want to say something meaningful, let's say something meaningful about biology.
Why did I come back in?
You're making a bunch of claims about my views, and they're not supported. You're not saying you're not doing this right, Danny. You're doing this wrong. It's not meaningful, Danny. You're not approaching it the right way, Danny. This is all literally something that does not motivate me in any kind of way. Why don't you respond to any of my claims for once in your life?
Why don't you learn how to handle criticism?
I'm trying to motivate you to abandon that approach.
With what? Just saying it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong, it's wrong. I've heard enough of it.
Have you ever considered that maybe your approach to understanding science actually really isn't a good approach?
Well, then give me an fucking argument, Leo.
Hey, Danny, breathe. Okay, seriously, because you're starting to get a little.
I'm just pointing out that y'all can make all the claims in the world, but actually fucking respond to what I'm saying rather than saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
You have.
Yeah, but responding to your biddable laws, I'm saying it's not going anywhere because nobody believes it.
Hey, can I say something to Danny real quick, please?
Yeah.
Hey, Danny, from one educator to another, I empathize with the.
Oh my God.
Not with the statements being made to you, not connecting, and then people restating those statements.
I know, it's infuriating.
That I understand that's very annoying. And I think you realize the benefit of taking a breath and not getting upset at an internet conversation, right? There's no need for that. I know, I get it, man. I do.
I mean, I'm fine right now. I'm just saying that it's Speed. You give me an argument, and then I'll consider it.
Give you an argument. Okay, I just gave you an argument. I'm saying that
you just made a bunch of claims. There's a difference between
no.
claims
I'm saying
and an
that
argument.
if you want to talk about philosophy and of biology, you don't bring up things like laws and try to talk about black swans and things like that.
This is not an argument. This is just a claim.
Okay, I'm making a claim. Then I'm making a claim. It's
why would I be committed to your claim?
Like you haven't made any sense. You haven't given us any. You haven't given us a prescription for what we should do. Do you dispute
the conditional that I gave? Are you disputing the conditional that I gave?
Yes.
Okay, so if remember what if means that you might disagree with the antecedent, but this is a conditional, right? If X is true, then Y follows. You don't have to accept X to know that if whether Y follows from X, right? So let me say it very clearly.
You mean whether X follows from Y?
Yes, I'm sorry.
No,
yes.
So when if X then Y.
Is it? I don't know what I said. I used variables.
Yeah, he said if Y then if Y then X. Therefore.
Okay,
X
so what
Y.
is X? What is X?
So if science is understood in terms of getting at exceptionalist laws of nature, then something like ecology or subdisciplines within biology are not going to science. Now, at least Leo said, I reject the antecedent. Okay.
Okay.
I understand that. I understand that. That's something I understand. But what you're doing is you're giving the wrong
approach. You got to shut up and let me clarify. What does exceptionalist law of nature mean? What does that phrase mean?
Meaning that if something went against the law goes out the window. There's no longer, we don't accept that law to be true anymore. So that's to say it's falsifiable in some kind of sense.
So you're talking about some kind of fixed law of the universe.
Yes.
Okay. If science is understood, okay, but science isn't understood that way. So
you're rejecting. I know that. Yeah. I'm saying, do you accept the conditional?
Okay, so I don't accept X.
That's not the. Oh my God! Someone else.
No, he's asking you that if you grant that X is true, even if you don't actually think that it is, if you were to grant that it was, would you agree that Y follows?
No issues.
Okay, so
relax, please.
Okay, yes, I would agree to Y if I were to grant you X, but and that is what I'm telling you. You're talking about X, and nobody else is, and nobody cares.
Okay, I know that's why do I whatever.
So yes, he's saying that if I were to grant X, yes, I'd agree with Y, but he's saying that he doesn't think majority of people would grant X to begin with.
That's fine. We can talk about that. That's something to discuss. That's something to discuss, right? Leo gave an alternate definition. I respect him for that, but you didn't give me shit.
Sounds like
I didn't give you shit. I didn't give you an alternate X.
Leo did.
Leo, did you give him an alternate X? What was the alternate X?
Yeah, I said that science is a methodology that is utilized for understanding the mechanistic operation of physical systems in reality.
Hey, Danny.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm laughing because you said you didn't give me shit, and it seems to me a lot of people have been giving you shit lately.
I've been giving you shit, man. I've been giving you shit since Seattle. Because well, I don't know if I should give you any more because you're
okay. I really have a quick question, Danny. I don't know. I just assume that you are an educator, but how do you handle students asking you questions?
He's a troll.
You get tested them at home. That's what you do. You get tested them at home.
It just loads them up with a shit.
Danny, you're muted. Danny, you're muted.
Oh, I'm muted. No, I'm to your question. Student where I'm like the Bible, right? So it doesn't. I don't really get any pushback, but that might be unhealthy. And in my philosophy class, I'm like, give me pushback. I'm not right about everything. Philosophy, there are no established facts. But in my biology class, no one's going to guanine and cytosine pair in DNA, right? No one's going to dispute that, right? But no, I don't really get. I don't really. None of my students push me back, and that's.
No, I didn't say push back. I said asking you questions.
Oh, I don't mind questions. No, I mean Speed doesn't give me questions. I mean Speed makes what irritated me about Speed is that he was saying stuff. This is the wrong approach, or we shouldn't think about it this way. And I agree with that.
You agree with that?
What am I supposed to do with that?
Know what to do with that?
Oh, what are you supposed to do with that? Find a different approach. Talk about.
Well, I mean, technically, you would be right if something isn't technically agreed to be a good, like, let's examine creationism. If somebody said, well, you're just saying that my approach to biology isn't correct. Well, I don't know what to do with that. And we said, well, use the better approach. Then that's what you need to do. Well, granted, that might have been somewhat of a contrived example, but.
Okay, so basically I'm saying that I don't care about that discussion as I've understood.
Then let's change the topic. Let's just change the topic. Why don't you change the topic if you hate the topic so much?
Let's talk about the philosophy of biology. Let's talk about the philosophy of biology.
I gotta go. I got class, so it was nice. It was fun talking.
I don't know. I feel bad for your students' grades after today.
Yeah, I always say that bring me cookies while I'm grading. That way your grades go up. So, but it's horrible that I'm influenced that way. But I think to a certain extent I am.
They're cookies. It's fine.
And I'm not going to hold up Danny, but so he can.
I am so fucking glad I did want to say really quickly. Danny.
I don't. Is my mic working? I don't think Danny is getting angry. I just think it's maybe some frustration and passion. So
I'm not. If you think I'm actually angry, I'm not angry. I'm just like it's just fun. It's like drama. It's this is for the viewers. It's a performance.
Yeah, okay, it's a performance, sure. For the love of Christ.
As soon as Danny leaves.
And it's coffee, too.
As soon as Danny leaves, we're going to play a video that's going to clear all this stuff up for us.
Okay. Good luck. I hope. Tell me what the resolution is, because and I hope it better not be that, oh, you're just wrong. Okay.
Or you're just full of shit.
What the fuck is this?
Okay, let's play this video. Nestleg wants us to play this. Okay, are we ready?
I am.
Let me know, guys, if you cannot hear the video. I have to. Oh, yes, I can play it. So this is about where he told me to start. Oh, by the way, this is the author of the book, The Origins. The origins and nature of life on Earth
is between things that are universal because they're the only solution to some problem, and things that are universal because they're inherited from a single ancestry of life. And typically people go too far off one side or the other. Like they'll see everything universal and say it probably is all the only solution that's possible. Or they'll see everything that's universal and say it's all a frozen accident and it could have been completely different. And Francis Crick and Steve Gould are probably the best known people arguing for the importance of accident in biology, because they were trying to get away from a kind of Laplacian view of the world, made too strong an assumption that everything was governed by laws that only had one solution. And they fight hard because they were trying to get a new point of view into people's consciousness, but as a result, they take a position that, in my view, is too extreme. So if you have a thing that is the way it is for a law-like reason, and you think it's an accident, then what you've done is failed to even try to understand why that was the only solution. So I think the right middle ground is to say the elements in the periodic table are really all unique. And the chemical things that each element can do are not exactly duplicated in any other element. For some of them, the changes are huge. Like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen have characteristically irreplaceable roles in biochemistry. The relation of sulfur to oxygen, the relation of phosphorus to oxygen and to nitrogen dictates much of their roles. You go down into the metals, they start to be a little bit more interchangeable. They, as a group, have roles that nothing else can substitute for. But individually, you start to see some substitutability. So that's law-like, because quantum mechanics doesn't give you any choices. At the other end, there are 5 fingers on my hand, and we know that my deep ancestors had different numbers of fingers, so we know that that's not governed by a law. Somewhere in between, where does law hand off to things that get locked in? That's probably not a simple boundary. It's probably a kind of a ragged coastline. And so for me, the thing that makes biochemistry so fascinating is that it is that mix of things that probably only have one solution. And that solution keeps being supported by higher level machinery of different forms, but it's always the same solution. And that, if you look in deep biochemistry, the biggest candidate for that is the citric acid cycle and the role of the simple amino acids. There are no substitutions for what they do in all of life. Everything, all other phylogenetic relations can change. Those roles are invariant. But then you get up into the more complicated amino acids and some of the sugar chemistry or the hydrocarbon chemistry. Some of it looks like it's anchored to things that don't change. Other of it looks like it probably comes from accidents of how catalysts were available or things like that. Can we understand where that boundary and that trade-off takes place? To my mind, that's what we could do to get a full and balanced understanding of the different things that contribute to the living state.
Okay. That's pretty much what I was thinking, that there is this, there's
an important thing to say part of building a better
science. There's this middle ground basically between, we have these laws and we apply the laws mathematically to models. And those laws make sense within those models. And indeed, those laws tell us a great deal about what is going on in biology, in the universe. So those laws are they seem like they're 80% real and right? And then there's the other thing where there is no law-like correlation at all. And that would be the ceiling and the floor that this guy is talking about. So there's this tension between the two things. It gets better until 23:30. Okay, so I got to keep playing. So Nestleg says I got to keep playing.
Scientific dialogue, which is the way that reductionism is used in biological sciences, which they would like to blame on physics, is completely different from the way reductionism is used in physics at its best. It may have been the way it was used in the physics of 100 years ago, but that's a thing that I wish we could get beyond, because the major accomplishment of the 20th century in physics was the understanding of the nature of emergent order. And we now realize that reductionism never made scientific sense without an understanding of emergence. Because if you didn't understand how a new kind of order can shield the details of smaller things, reductionism would lead you to need to know everything to predict anything. And the point of emergence is that you can have a predictive finite science at different levels, which gets you some of the details from the foundation and masks others. And the important thing is, at the boundary where that happens, you have systematic ways of learning which details will come through and which will be masked. And a good reductionism in every science, I think, is going to have that dual character. It's the essence of reductionism is that if a composite thing is made of building blocks, then the number of combinations will be much larger than the number of kinds of building blocks. If all you want to know is the properties of the building blocks, then the number of experiments you have to do to answer that question will only be about as numerous as the building blocks. It should not have to be as numerous as all the combinations. And that's been incredibly useful in physics, because it says we don't need to know everything about chemistry to work out the periodic table. And accomplishing an understanding of the periodic table is finite progress, even though we still don't know most of what's in chemistry. But you would never say that knowing the periodic table, we now know everything in chemistry. That would be stupid, because it's manifestly false. So to understand the combinations, you need a new native language that is addressed to the characters of the combinations. And the knowledge of the building blocks does not give you that language, because the combinations are a new kind of intellectual entity. So in biology, the role of reductionism is to know when you can solve part of a problem without having to solve the whole problem of the combinations. But in no mature science would you ever think that that means you don't have all the rest of that work to do. So we shouldn't think it in biology either.
Pretty cool. Anyway, discuss. That's some pretty cool stuff. The tension between emergence and reductionism, I think. So, and I froze again. God damn it! What is my mic?
Oh, you did. Wait, your video froze. Just shut your camera off and then maybe turn it back on.
Yeah, I have to go to reset it and stuff. Does that all the time. Okay, so anyway, that's this guy is worth listening to. Let me link that video in my description.
I guess I would say before we discuss that, it's worth noting he started the video by saying these other prominent people don't agree with me. So, you know, this is an ongoing subject. I'm not saying he has bad points, but XYZ big person has a different stance than me.
Yeah,
I think that's worth noting before anything else.
Well, there's a whole hell of a lot of paradigm changing going on in biology right now, and that's that paper that we're doing is cell and machine. That's part of that paradigm change in biology, and so is biosemiotics and the application of information and the extended synthesis of evolution. And there is a tremendous amount of tension right now, and it's really good because it's yielding whole new ways of thinking about things. And I think it kind of was kicked off with Terence Deacon's book, Incomplete Nature, in a very big way. And then, but the problem is that people like Dennis Noble have taken it too far in some respects. And, you know, and the result is going to be a better synthesis. And that paper we're reading, particularly the section that I'm editing that we will put out as our second section on proteins, gives us a really good idea about the paradigm shift and how our methodologies may change in biology as a result of that paradigm shift. And it may, and the whole thing is in flux. And I mean, biology has been in flux since Plato.
Yeah.
Or before. So, I mean, it's
biology.
I mean, that's a discussion that I want to have. This reduction versus emergence, not this bullshit about laws, because no one is saying that there are laws in biology in the sense that that they would be exceptional as laws of nature. So,
I mean,
Speed?
I would.
Huh?
I was just going to say, if anybody wants to look into another example of the same sort of thing happening, I would really recommend looking up Conway's Game of Life and the exploration
I love
of
that.
the things that people have discovered and invented and built and all kinds of things in Conway's Game of Life, because it's very similar. The underlying rules of Conway's Game of Life are extremely simple, way more simple than anything we have in physics right now, and yet the potential complexity of Conway's Game of Life as a whole, as a universe, is, as far as we can tell, the same as our own universe. That if it was a big enough universe, it could literally have the same complexity as the kinds of stuff we find here. So when people explore things like, well, like for example, somebody built a long time ago, they built a little counter that just counted from 0 to 9 and repeated in Conway's Game of Life. So and drew out the digits in Arabic numerals from 0 to 9, and since then people have built little calculators in it and things like that. It is actually programmable, and you find these structures they refer to as spaceships that move around inside of the thing. They're macro structures, but they're all behaving according to the rules of the individual cells they're composed of. And yet people do try to make some rules about it and say, for example, when a glider hits a small spaceship at such and such an angle, this will happen. And and
That is very fascinating, and yeah, Conway's Game of Life does, because to me, complexity arising out of simplicity makes sense, right? You take
that's all biology is.
Well, yeah, biology, physics. To me, you take a painting, right? You say the Mona Lisa, okay? It looks amazing. It looks complex, but simple steps were taken to assemble. I'm sucking at this, but you get the point. Like
Emergence.
It was made out of a bunch of brush strokes, and the brush strokes were carrying paint, and you could look at the chemistry of the paint and say, okay, well, this is really complex chemistry going on here. We've got this this pigment next to that pigment, but I mean, if you analyze the stop sign that way, you could have an accident.
Yeah, but like no, okay. Like what I'm trying to say is that the laws that we have or whatever may be descriptive, but that doesn't mean they're not describing something that's actually happening in reality.
Well, they're describing what we see, what we observe.
Yeah. For people to say, "Oh, the laws are descriptive, not prescriptive," okay, who gives a shit? They work.
Yeah.
Well, that's a false dilemma fallacy, because number one, you can further break design into two types of design: teleological design or teleonomical design. Biology is design in the teleonomical sense, not the teleological sense.
Can somebody tell me how to unblock Otangelo?
No.
In YouTube?
Yeah, I don't know how, because I haven't blocked anybody. Google could probably help you out.
Google.
Well, he's in here under the God Talk, so
yeah, he's in here under the God Talk because
I would not know either.
John hit him from the channel a couple days ago.
And I don't know how to unblock him. How to unblock? Come on. Did I say how to unblock Otangelo on the YouTube channel? Because I'm sure that
website.
Yeah, I bet you any money there's a website like dedicated to unblocking and blocking Otangelo.
Really?
I bet there is. He's been around for a while.
So. Is that a law of YouTube?
I think this is a law of YouTube, yeah. How to view block contacts on YouTube. So why do they hide it so fucking carefully? click continue. Add what? Are you kidding me? They want me to add? No. Okay, sign in your account. Once you're signed, go ahead, guys. Discuss. I'm just musing.
Conway's game of life is God, literally.
There's no address book on the left side of the screen. You bastards.
Yeah, I forgot what we were talking about. Sorry.
Okay.
We're talking about God.
Talking about basically the tension between reduction and emergence, and he was talking about the whole multiple hierarchy approach and the bottom up and top down approach at the same time. So if you were to reduce everything to carbon chemistry and nitrogen and oxygen chemistry, then you would end up having to know everything there is to know about the universe in order to explain why humans have thoughts. But now, if you look at it from a higher level, from a neuroscience perspective.
Okay, I figured it out.
Go ahead.
You're going to have to follow my instructions. Pull up your YouTube studio. Open YouTube Studio.
Got her.
Go to settings, and then in settings, go to community.
Oh, settings. It's
Once
way
you're in
down on the
settings,
bottom.
you go to community, and then there should be a hidden users area under there.
Holy shit.
And Otangelo, the name Otangelo Grasso should appear.
Okay, somebody hit a whole bunch of users that I did not hide.
Okay. What the fuck is he talking about here? When a ribosome subunit is made, it goes through a test drive process. It is only incorporated in the end assembly if functioning properly. This process is either due to chance or design. Okay, false dichotomy, or is it? Yeah. Or is it? Or actually, no. Is it a true dichotomy? I don't know. Go ahead, Leo.
I don't have anything else to say.
Oh well.
We got nothing.
DNA and RNA does not appear naturally on Earth. Okay, then how the fuck did it get here?
Yeah, that makes no sense.
There is no DNA and RNA. It's an illusion.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm trying to figure it out myself.
See, this is what I don't understand is that we'll have something that's made of natural material. It exists in the natural world. It operates under natural laws. It interacts with other natural things, but it didn't get here naturally.
Right.
But I can't give you any viable mechanism for how it did get here, but I sure as hell know it wasn't naturally.
There are only possible mechanisms. There are
even,
no impossible mechanisms.
Okay, even if you want to say that DNA and RNA arrived here on asteroids, they still came from the universe. They're still natural.
Of course, they're natural substances. They're literally just saying that RNA and DNA didn't arise naturally simply because they're complex molecules would be like saying that things like salt or any complex molecule didn't arise naturally because it's complex. That's not what that means.
Yeah,
we already know that all of the nucleobases, the nucleotides that make up RNA and DNA can form naturally. We've created them in natural conditions, and I believe there has been some research that under certain conditions they begin to form Watson-Crick base pairs.
Yeah, the key to the whole thing is right there, that we can look at the big structures, the big complex things, and we can make observations, and we can observe consistencies and inconsistencies and try to figure it out. But if we really want to understand it thoroughly, we have to go down to the smallest part. We have to resort to reductionism, at least to some extent, to be able to understand the components that make something happen the way it does happen. And that's why science is done the way it's done. And sometimes reductionism fails. Sometimes it isn't enough, and you do have to look at the more complex thing. But that's where Stephen Wolfram introduced what he referred to as a new kind of science, where you use computation to solve those problems, where you actually run an emulation of the thing that you want to solve, so that your emulation works in a very known, predictable way, and then you can compare that with the real world thing that you're trying to understand.
Also, he says asteroids do not contain RNA and DNA. Well, we don't know that. We've never observed it, but we do know.
It was just an example. For fuck's sake.
We do know that we have discovered asteroids. I believe it was in the 1960s in Australia. There was an asteroid that contained nucleobases on it, which are the analogs for RNA and DNA. So somebody could say, well, they didn't find actual RNA and DNA. Well, that's cool. It'd be no different than saying, well, we haven't found salt on a meteor, but we have found sodium and chloride, and then arguing, well, it's still unreasonable to assume there could be salt. Well, not if the things that make salt are found on the meteor.
Actually, it would be more like saying we haven't found table salt, crystallized and ground up into really, specific sized pieces. Because, finding the nucleotides, you've essentially found the most reductive form of DNA or RNA. If you find the nucleotides and you find one molecule of ribose, you've got enough there to build your, it's like 2 Lego blocks. All you've got to do is snap them together, and there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we haven't, as far as I know, we haven't yet actually found RNA on a meteor. But we're talking about stuff that probably actually, for the most part, formed in outer space. Some of it might have been flung to outer space from a planet that it formed on, but most of that stuff probably actually formed out in the Oort cloud and stuff like that. And if it can form out there, and we already know for a fact that it can be formed in a laboratory here on Earth, then I don't know why anybody would think there's anything other than nature involved.
By the way, Otangelo, there's 2 links in the side chat that talk about the nucleobases that we found on the meteors. I didn't say nucleotides or nucleosides. I said nucleobases. We've also found amino acids and other organic and inorganic compounds that are still relevant to life in its formation, most likely on meteors. So I don't know what point you're getting at.
But God.
Well, it's like saying, well, we haven't seen a plant on a meteor. Yeah, but we've seen all the chemicals that make a plant. So of course we probably haven't seen a plant. You need a little bit more chemistry to go from the chemicals that make a plant to an actual plant. Just like you need a lot more chemical reactions to go from the things that make RNA and DNA to actually having that molecular structure. But the fact that we found the things that make up that molecular structure and we know that they can form naturally is really all we need to know to be able to deduce that RNA and DNA can form naturally.
Yeah, if there was a plant in the asteroid belt, it wouldn't remain a plant for very long anyway.
No, it wouldn't.
I honestly don't understand why couldn't God have just created the universe as is, and life was a byproduct of that creation?
Why couldn't the tooth fairy? Why couldn't any
I'm trying to, if you really want to consider it logically, God could simply be, I don't know, some fucking 12-year-old in his basement creating a universe on his computer.
Sure, hypothetically, but it's awfully far-fetched.
Yeah, I know. Like what I'm saying is that any scenario you come up with is more logically consistent than than a disembodied God who created the universe out of his breath or something.
Okay, last night on Praise's channel, do you know what they came up with? Somebody, I forget who it was. The platypus. God created the platypus so that we would know that evolution isn't true.
Are you fucking serious?
Pretty close. That's what they were. I'm kind of summarizing, restating, but yeah, the platypus is like such a train wreck for evolution that God, and so the question is, why did God create the chimpanzee? To confuse us, and then he created the platypus to straighten us out? I mean, I don't get it. But yeah,
that is the most retarded thing I've ever heard in my life.
Okay, Sal Cordova.
It does make for decent humor.
Yes,
okay, just saying.
Sal Cordova claims that God created chimpanzees to be so much like humans, so that we could do medical tests on them, and we didn't have to do medical tests on humans. That's his theory. He believes that God gave us other mammals as a gift, so that we could torture them in the lab instead of torturing humans.
You want to know how childish that shows their line of thinking? There was a bunch of researchers that took some kids and showed them, like, so a bear is scratching his back on a tree. So why do you think that tree is there? And these like 4 and 5-year-olds would answer so that the bear can scratch his back on it. They're like just putting an agency into reality, and that shows you how childish and how just simplistic their line of thinking really is.
I know. It's pretty bad. Pretty bad. 27 problems of prebiotic amino acid synthesis.
The same rationality, by the way, was used to excuse enslaving human beings. That they weren't really human. They were created by God for that purpose.
Yep.
But hey, who gives a shit? You know what? I better not say that already. A little shit I say gets taken out of context already.
So that racist picture that young Will put up on Praise's channel, I think Praise edited it out.
Yeah, you might not want to show that on stream.
I'm not showing that picture.
Well, what was it a picture of?
Yeah, put it on the side chat or something. But
it was a very bad depiction of a black person, but that he is. And I don't. I would have to send it to you by text or something like that. But I thought it was like, holy shit! I can't believe I'm looking at this. It was pretty bad.
I'm not surprised by that. Like I said, a lot of people in this community of creationists that we deal with, not all of them, but there are probably a few we can pick out that might not be a full-on racist, but definitely have their racial biases.
Oh, they do. You could tell.
Leo, actually, no, never mind. I'm not gonna make the joke.
Don't go there. No,
yeah, I'm not.
Well, religion has evolved to survive through the changes of society, and I mean, some of these ways that religious people tend to think are sort of imposed on them by their religion in order to keep itself alive. I mean, like I got somebody I'm talking to in the chat here. He says, if you claim there's no God, then that is the religion of atheism. And I never made the claim there's no God. I responded back to him, that's a straw man argument. He says it's not a straw man. You're giving me the impression that you think atheism and religion are separate, but you believe there is no God. You have beliefs as everyone else. So I replied to that with, you can name your pet rat God, and then there's a God. Why would I believe something that I have no evidence of, like you claim I do? And but they're taught not to think in a way that lets them see the flaws in the way they're thinking. And sometimes racism is a part of that, because or tribalism or religionism, for that matter, to say my religion is right, or bookism, if you want to call it that, or they say my book has all the answers.
Yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, they're trying to create this rhetoric that evolution and modern biology is somehow run by like an atheist conspiracy to attack God. And it's like
the religion of atheism.
It is so ridiculous that, and what they're actually trying to do is they're trying to solidify their cult.
Oh, okay, can I point something out really quick, Speed? Just some hypocrisy here. The most recent comment, well, now the second most recent comment that Otangelo put, he said, at Donald, out of at least 27 problems of prebiotic amino acid synthesis, 13 are directly related to the lack of a mechanism to select the right ingredients. So he's attacking abiogenesis because there aren't mechanisms. We don't have viable mechanisms for how certain things could be produced. Yet he himself has openly admitted on this channel numerous times that he doesn't have a mechanism for how God did it. So I've asked this question to them all the time, and I never get an answer. Why is it okay for you to have a model without a mechanism, but when we have a model without a mechanism, that's evidence that the model doesn't work, but somehow yours still does? It's just blatant hypocrisy at this point.
Yeah, and besides, we do have, actually.
I mean, it's not really hypocrisy because
it's literally hypocrisy. Like it's literally.
You didn't let me finish, Leo. You didn't let me finish.
Because it's hypocrisy. Like it literally falls under.
I was making a joke. Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
I was going to say Hold on. I was going to say it's not hypocrisy because he has God on his side. Thank you. Good night. I'll be here all day.
Guys, could I point out that on this channel, I do a great deal of work while you guys are talking, and I often don't pay attention because I am building the description with almost every link and significant thing we run across. So if you wanted to find this video, for instance, or any other video we look at, go look at the description of my weather reports, and you will find that I'm really, really cool. I mean, nobody ever says Speed. That's really cool that you do that.
Immutable actually has a little bit of a point here when he says that intelligence isn't a mechanism. It isn't. Intelligence on its own does nothing. Intelligence applied within the confines of physical reality does things. You can't just use your intelligence to build a house in the sense of you think about a house and then it gets built. You have to actually do something. You have to work within the confines of the laws of physics and apply forces in certain ways on certain materials to bring them together to construct the house. So Immutable is also correct when he says intelligence alone is not sufficient. So Otangelo can sit here and say, well, God is intelligent and God did this. You know what? Just for the sake of discussion, great, awesome. How did God do it? Just saying intelligence.
How did God do
it? If you say, well, how did you build this house?
And which God?
My intelligence. That doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's more, which God, and how does he know that that particular God did it that particular way? Because if there's no evidence that a particular God did it a particular way, then there's no evidence that God did it.
And his argument is essentially, well, you don't have a mechanism, so it must have been God. It's literally just God of the gaps argument from ignorance.
Otangelo, come on, you can.
And that gap is already filled.
Did you the comment on the screen right now? This is his argument.
Funny.
Intelligent hold on. Let me go. Intelligent agents do select materials all the time to make machines.
You need better than yourself.
We need fucking Peterson here to do his imitation.
It's pretty bad. Anyway.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, John Peterson's imitation is bad. Like, sorry, John, but it is. Like,
no, I mean the comment is pretty bad. John Peterson is getting better. He's practicing online. Give him a break. How come he's not here today? I don't know what happened.
I don't know. The other thing is that I don't know how many people here saw it, but when Otangelo went on Dapper's channel and talked about falsifiability on more than one occasion, Otangelo did admit, yes, there actually are ways to falsify the intelligent design model. Dapper asked him, okay, what would do that? What for you in your mind would you have to see to say, okay, intelligent design doesn't work? And Otangelo laid those out. He laid out what the standard of falsification was, and I commend him for that. I commend him for admitting that his model is falsifiable, and I also commend him for admitting that these are the things that you would have to show to falsify it. And then Dapper shows him that more than one in more than one way, and all Otangelo does is backpedal and say, "Oh, well, but that's not my model." So he's already admitted that his model has a standard of falsification. He's outlined what that is, and that standard has been met in numerous ways, in numerous different ways.
Yep. Okay, guys.
Are we ending?
I don't know. What do you think? I think we should. I think we've reached a plateau.
Before we go, could I ask anybody who's interested to come join me in this chat on the other on where my debate's supposed to be happening and have a little fun in there, because it's been interesting.
What debate?
Okay.
My is evolution ubiquitous debate with Kent Hovind. The debate isn't until tomorrow, but the chat's been going on for a while now, and it's usually pretty active. It disappears after a while, you know.
What
little
channel?
by little, the stuff that's said goes away, but it's interesting. It's on Modern Day Debate.
Okay, what the hell does ubiquitous even mean?
Very
ubiquitous,
like
everywhere all the time, basically.
There's a protein named after it.
Okay, I get it. I kind of get the gist of the
It's
answer.
like everything everywhere.
Yeah, basically everything evolves pretty much all the time. That's
Everything
my
everywhere.
argument
I
that
mean,
I'm
why
going
is
to be
that? Why is that
covering in
even
the
a
debate.
question? It does. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
well,
why you have to?
Kent Hovind says it never does, and yet he admits microevolution happens. He just thinks microevolution just means change in variation within a kind that can't ever get out of that.
Does he not
created
realize that
kind.
microevolution leads to macroevolution?
Well, he
Holy
also
shit.
doesn't understand what the law of
And
modifier
well,
is.
that lots of microevolution is macroevolution. So unless he wants
Yeah.
to say that microevolution, that throughout the entire length of time the universe exists, only so much microevolution can ever happen. Then he's admitted that macroevolution and doesn't know it.
So should we do an after show on that debate on this channel?
I'll be sure
if you want.
It starts at 7. Because it's gonna have Kent Hovind. I should
I
probably.
would
I'll
like
only
that,
be able to
actually.
watch the first. I'll be able to watch the debate all the way up until 8 because on Tuesdays the Curse of Oak Island is on, and so from 8 to 9 I'm not available. But I'll be
Hey,
able to watch
Speed.
the first bit of the debate, the end of it maybe, and be at the after show.
Hey, Speed, can I recommend a pre-show? Actually go in and just like zoom in on the live chat and talk about the live chat while it's going on before the debate even starts.
Yeah,
Because like I said, that's been going for days now.
Tomorrow's
Really,
going to be busy then.
How many entries have they had that I missed?
Dozens.
What entries? What do you mean?
Yeah, like
How many comments have people made?
In the
Okay,
chat?
I'm saving them now.
It's been ongoing. Literally, it's been ongoing. Sometimes I've had as many as 30 something people in there at one time. There's 14 in there right now, and it's not as fast as it generally goes during the debate, but it's been pretty busy. Right now, there's myself and one other person talking. There was a different person a little while ago who's been there persistently. This guy has spent hours at a time doing apologetics, and a while ago he told me he was just being sarcastic. Then he said he was putting aside the sarcasm and strawmanned me anyway.
Yeah, this John Dodick, how the fuck you pronounce that guy, is asking for transitional, like some sort of fossil between animal thought and human thought. He's asking for transitional forms of thought.
I told him look in archaeology. The evidence is there. That's where you'll find the fossils of that sort of thing.
Right. Which is a good answer. Yeah.
And it's, I could give him more thorough answers, but I'm participating in this at the same time. So I'm just kind of, going in there once in a while and plugging a little thing in.
Okay, Donald.
He says human thought is completely distinct from animal thought. So humans are animals. Enter. Just like that.
Donald.
Yeah.
Donald, I'm saving the chat now from here forward, but you should have told me like 2 days ago and I could have saved it all. But,
oh, you mean like video record the chat going on?
No, I've got a.
How do you get that save chat feature?
I have a Chrome
You got
extension.
chat. You have a chat logger?
I have a chat logger, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that should be interesting.
But
I don't know what you might. Maybe you can use that in the after show.
It only works live, so I have to get there and turn the chat on. Otherwise, everything is lost. Like on this show, I think everything will be lost in the chat. I'm not sure if you replay it, if it'll show up.
Yeah, when you replay a show that had the chat live on it, I think sometimes it doesn't even show the chat. It might be a setting, but when the chat does show in it, it will replay the chat.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll replay
as the show goes.
I don't think it'll replay it from 2 days ago. I think it'll start wherever the show starts.
Right, it'll start wherever the show starts. And somebody made a comment in the chat earlier today, saying that it disappears every couple hours, I think they said, but that once the show starts, it becomes permanent. So I think what they were saying is that any chat that's already there when the show starts will become permanent.
I see Amy Newman is in the chat too.
Yeah, that was Amy Newman. Yeah, said that.
Amy is exceptional.
Is that still on there? Or you're still seeing that on there? Or
I'm seeing part of
Are
Amy,
you just seeing her in there?
I'm seeing part of her and then some other stuff. So
Speed.
I can save it that way.
Oh yeah, I see Brian Stevens in there. Yeah,
I really,
wise.
yeah, I really wish I really wish people would stop giving Kent Hovind a platform. I mean, come on, look at that, look at that,
I'm
look at
not, though.
that smile. Look at that
I'm not, though.
smile. You're debating him. That's giving
He
him
already.
a platform.
No, it's not at all. Not the way I'm going about it, because I'm planning to do this differently than I've seen anyone else ever do it. Too many people don't address the stuff that he's talking about. They come in there with their thing that they want to say, and and they do things like, he says cosmic evolution is just the Big Bang, the origin of the universe, and they try to call that evolution, and well, we can't even prove there was a Big Bang. And they get all distracted by that, and they say, "Oh, don't talk about that because that's not evolution. Evolution is all about biology." I'll address that. Cosmic evolution is not the Big Bang. It's not an origin story. Evolution is a process. Cosmic evolution is the cosmos evolving.
Speed.
Yes.
When can we? Maybe tomorrow, because I don't know how long it's going to take. 15, 20 minutes before we go live with the weather report. You could show me how to sync my iPad with my MacBook.
Sure. We could do that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm assuming I have to download some extension or some app to do it, which isn't a big issue.
You do, and it. Do you want the name of it so you can do it in advance?
Hey,
sure.
Speed. What do we talk about? Who do I see in the stream?
Who's in the stream?
Anyway, what's the name of that app?
I'm trying to find it. For some reason, it's there it is. Reflector 3.
Okay.
And there's a space. So look that up and download that. And that allows you to mirror. That allows you to mirror your. What do you have, an iPad?
Yes.
Okay, you can mirror your iPad to your MacBook or whatever you have.
Does it have to be specifically a MacBook, or could it, if I downloaded? Because I'm assuming I have to download the app on my iPad and also on the MacBook.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I downloaded it also on my Pixelbook, could I use it? You
only have to download it on your MacBook.
Oh,
you don't have to download it on your iPad. You can already mirror your screen on your iPad, but I'll show you how to use it tomorrow.
Oh, there.
All right.
This John Dotic, or however you pronounce it, finally he just went there. He says also, if evolution is true, then what about everything else? Where did the universe come from? Did that evolve too? The point is, at a certain point, even mainstream science arrives at the conclusion that there was a beginning. So he's went to origins already. And
it's origins or
I'm ready for. Yeah, I'm ready for that, because evolution has nothing to do with origins. Evolution produces some origins, but it does it through a process, not an origin story.
Okay, I need everybody out there to hit the like button, or I'm not going to put shit in the description anymore. Fuck y'all. And I think we're going to end the show for today. It's 3:45. I got to go get the mail. And look at the sun. Oh, there ain't no sun. Anyway, so we're ending for the day. Goodbye. Okay. Goodbye, wonderful world. See what I did there, Midnight?
Yes.
Goodbye, wonderful life. Oh, no, I said goodbye to my life. Oh, no.
Okay, Speed. I
went too far. I get
the point. Far. I was just worried about you, dick.
I need an outro. I need a better outro than goodbye, cruel world. Goodbye, public.